What it do? What? 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 Yeah. Title. I just have a question about this, right? And this is something that I brought up a couple years ago, and this always cycles up every now and again, especially when we hear a celebrity female who has been given birth in a while ago, and we see that they're still allowing the child to suckle, and they're like 10. And every time there's a lot of backlash because it's, personally, I think that it's because a lot of clear women do it, and you know, all they have to do is stomp their feet or cry, and you know, everybody has to, you know, everything goes to crap, right? Like, you know, you get hate mail and everything, and the only want to speak to the manager, want to like dox you and shit, right? So at any rate, I'm at it again, and I'm still firm in my stance, right? I frankly believe that there is a psychological issue there where which mothers can have. There's, you know, which is letting go, letting your child grow to that next level, and letting them walk on their own, quote unquote. We see that in a lot of different areas, you know, when they maybe, you know, get into junior high or high school, or even as an adult, you know, certain things we don't let go of and let them be. You know, we still have, you know, mothers out here still making their children's beds and fixing their food and stuff, and they're like 16, 17, they're able-bodied. You know, they're not divergent, like autistic or anything, where they're not, you know, nonverbal, or they need assistance. Okay, but it's that desire, that of wanting to be needed, and not being able to let go internally. You know, that internal struggle of letting go, like this. You know, so I think when it regards to you know, women allowing, because I've even seen a video a while ago where it was like a eight-year-old child, and what is that, 3rd, 4th grade, suckling, not just breast milk in a cup, but suckling, right? So the child eat dinner or whatever, and then goes and gets milk. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. And I think a lot of these women just could not let go. I mean, that, you know, I've had 2 children. So, you know, the babies, they're so small and they're fragile. And you have to, there's, you know, squishy and cute. And they're helpless. They're totally helpless and dependent on you. So you have to wipe their bottoms. You have to feed them. You have to bathe them. You have to do all of these things. And, you know, a lot of us just have a harder time of letting go. You know, I've even seen things about, like, you know, the whole bathing thing, in addition to the breastfeeding, you know, the bathing, taking baths, you know, some controversial things with that when they're getting up in age, 7, 8 years old, still bathing with either parent. Naked, right? So and again, you know, it's one of those things where you just have to, you know, see it for what it is. You know, people say, oh, you know, you're sexualizing the boobs. The boobs been sexualized. Women like stimulation in their areolas, whether some like it pain, some like it sensual, okay? Some like a mixture of both, and everything in between. Okay, we turn it off when it comes to our children. You know, like when I breastfed both of my kids, and I breastfed, and I didn't breastfeed till they was in elementary school. But I definitely the most crucial time in which they needed the breast milk, that's when I breastfed. I would have breastfed longer, but it just wasn't feasible for me. But I still wouldn't have breastfed till like 5 or like from the suckle. Let's suckle. Okay, suckle, because again, I want to make sure that we are very clear what I'm saying. I'm not saying breast milk. I'm talking about suckling, right? My child both of mine would have suckled longer, but they still would have been, by the time they would have been able to hold cups and eat and whole sandwiches and chicken nuggets or whatever, or a piece of chicken strips and macaroni or whatever, when they were able to, the coordination, the hand-arm coordination and stuff started to kick in, they wouldn't have been suckling anymore. They would have gotten the milk in the sippy cup, because now you've gotten your bearings of this body, of working the mechanics of this fleshly body. Okay, you can move your arms, and to some degree wipe your bottom. You still obviously, a child would need help to a certain age to assist with the whole bathing routine. And like I said, that's a whole nother can of worms, because there's even people who use the same argument, that it's natural, and that's the parent or whatever, to be in the bathtub with their children naked at 7, 8 years old. My other question is, this is what hurts people, and people get to really trying to throw it back and throw shade, and it just lets me know that people do not know how to have a constructive conversation without trying to talk about somebody's looks, or trying to throw it on them or whatever. Saying things like, well, maybe I need to see a psychiatrist for whatever happened to me. And it's like, what type of bubble are you guys living in, to where you think that children are not preyed upon at an alarming rate, that you should be concerned with teaching them good touch, bad touch? How trusting are you with schools and other people, being around other people's children? You hearing time and time again, you have adults touching on children in child daycare centers, teachers, kids touching on other kids, even as early as kindergarten. Like, what bubble do you live in? I mean, even right now, there's a high women and young adults or teens, especially. We're hearing a lot about trafficking right now. I don't know, I know Facebook is kind of slow with that type of stuff, but I be on TikTok, and it's like it's a common occurrence where women coming out of the airport are being approached. They're trying to get them at the airport, as far as trying to get them into that trafficking stuff. They're trying to snatch them up in the parking lots of shopping centers and grocery stores, following them around in grocery stores, handing them little pieces of paper that has fentanyl and all types of things that are happening. So my thing is, why are we not on, what happened? Was it like the fact that, and I'm a Gen Xer, so the fact that we were so overly protective that I don't know what happened, to where y'all don't see that there is an issue out here. That is a very, very prevalent concern. So people are like, oh, you need to see a psychiatrist. Maybe you should really get into social work, child protective services. Okay, that'll change your mind real quick. Be an officer having to arrive at some of these calls. Okay, teachers having to deal with children that they know are being touched on. Let me tell you something. I dated somebody that was a teacher. Some of the stories she told me were alarming, but I'm gonna tell you the story. And these are kids that are, I think they were 4 and 5 or something like that. These are experiences. I'm gonna just give you one. One child that they had in their room like to stick their fingers in their bottom. And did that a lot and tried to do that to other kids. In their bottom, in the backside. That child was being touched on. That's not something that you naturally, you know how they'll say, well, you know, kids are naturally curious. That ain't natural. That's not natural. And I'm not going to go into, I've heard some very disturbing stories from just her being a teacher. I have heard very disturbing stories from, people who have been, now are adults, who have experienced those things as little children. Okay. Child Protective Services, social workers will tell you too. Okay. That is more of an issue, that you need to be out here telling your kids good touch, bad touch. Kids prey on other kids. Like if you're having the good touch, bad touch talk, are you like not telling them about the breast area? And if so, like, if you are, like, what do you say? Like, what do you say? Like, yeah, I'm your mommy though. Like, right? Like, so it's okay if you touch mine. Like, what do you say? How are you having this conversation? And this is I should have did a trigger warning. It's a very sensitive topic, but like, for like teenagers who prey on little kids, 15, 16, 17, 14-year-old prey on 7, 8, and girls do it too. Here's the thing, but that's the thing that we don't want to admit. Girls are just as out there doing it. It's just that boys see it as a badge of honor when a girl does it to them, even if they're 8 or 9 years old. I know grown men who have told me that they have been touched on either by their older sister, cousins, family members, babysitter that was a teenager, and they're like 8, 9 years old. What do you think they're having them do? Touch on their breasts and other things in other private areas, but the breasts are one. So my thing is this: if you are not having that conversation of that area, then that kind of leaves your child open. Because remember, these people are manipulative. When these people prey on kids, they're very cunning and manipulative. Okay, some of them groom them, and it takes time, and some of them put things in a way, that makes them think in their mind that it's okay. So if you're saying that, oh, because I'm your parent and we're family and that's okay. So what happens to like the cousin or the older sibling or, somebody else, and be like, they say, well, we family though. It's okay. Yeah, I know you're wrong, but we family too. It's okay because we all family. Families do that. And so now you've already put in your child's head like, well, yeah, my mom's family. You're not. I think in a lot of cases, women are being selfish and not thinking of the overall betterment of their children, and making sure they have all the tools because to navigate this world. And it is just one thing that you don't want to even, you don't want your child to experience, and you don't want to be at fault to why your child went through it. Okay, so again, I don't understand the logic behind like a 6-year-old, 7, 8-year-old suckling. not the milk, because the milk can get put in the cup. Beyond the fact that, and again, this is what don't nobody want to admit, is that it just boils down to the fact that you as a parent don't want to let go. You don't want to let go. You don't want to let go of that child being helpless. You don't want to come to grips with this child is fully like, okay, this child's growing, and there is some attachment issues, like you have to detach yourself, and it's hard. Like, I have an adult now, so it's certain. This is why I'm saying this is coming from experience. Like, it's hard to detach because you want to shelter them from everything. You want to make sure and some things you just gotta let them. You got to understand in your mind that they are grown, or they are grown, they are older, whichever, if they're still like under age 18, they're still, they're still growing. So, okay, now you got to give them a little leeway with certain things, right? You can't baby them, or you have to let them, you can't shelter them from certain things. You have to let them experience certain things, I'm saying, in intervals, certain intervals of having kids and the things that you allow them to do. At some point you allow them to go out, but you prepare them first, right? Prepare them with certain safety talks and things like that, and getting that in their head and drilling that in their head, and then you let them go. You can go to the store. Yeah, you go to the corner store, let them go to the country store, things like that. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's all it is. And then then people want to get rude, and and because you don't want to have a constructive civil conversation, and then all these, it always ends up, people want to start talking about people, personal mental health, or maybe getting the little, what just makes you known that you're not capable of having a constructive conversation. They want to get to talking about what's people looks and eyebrows and all that dumb shit, right? That just lets a person who can turn that off and on and can have a constructive conversation and not take shots at people personally, that you are childish and you're used to those childish conversations and being childish because you cannot articulate yourself without finding some error in somebody's physical appearance or whatever, so that I don't know, like, as if that doesn't work in every scenario. Sometimes you just need to, be able to talk about whatever the subject is at hand, to be taken serious. Everything ain't a kiki. Everything isn't, you can't just, oh, that's why you look like a man, or, whatever, or that's why, whatever, your hair is woo, what I'm saying, or that shit is childish. I just block people like that, because it's like, why? There's no need. You go play with your friends, and the ones that are on it, that you have no mature people that you spiral with, that will get you on that level of knowing the difference when, is a very serious conversation, because this is a very sensitive issue. It's a very sensitive topic. It's about children, and when it comes to, and body parts. So automatically, one would think that who is of sound mind and, and mature would be like, okay, this should be, because of the sensitivity or the nature of the topic. Let's keep this above par, right? So yeah, that's just what I wanted to get out there and I'm gonna throw this on my YouTube. But yeah, no one can give me it's all but because that's, you're sexualizing women's bodies. Women's bodies have been sexualized. We sexualize our own bodies. We sexualize we call it sex appeal. How we dress and things like that to accentuate certain parts of our body, or to have parts of our body be more seen and visible, like when we wear shirt cut shit so that people can see our breasts, right? That's okay. I'm not knocking anybody I'm just saying, like, let's not be contradictory here. That's why I mean, if it was just about breast being a milk source, women wouldn't be out here getting breast lifts and fake boobs. So that's just something that you just stop. And it's just a knee-jerk response to try to get, but it's still not, it still does not answer the question. Because you could say, oh, well, we've sexualized, that we need to stop sexualizing women's body parts. Okay, so tell the pedophiles that. How is that protecting your child from being preyed on? Or knowing the difference of if they're, then when things ain't right and they need to go tell somebody. And I just think, we talking about predators, I think that as a society, we really downplay the fact that there are quite an alarming number of women or females, whatever, that prey on children. Okay. R. Kelly's, what was it, his older sister, I think? Remember that? When that came out? I think it was his older sister or his cousin. I want to say it was his older sister, who was a teenager. And he was a child. He was like, hey, come on now. I know somebody personally that, but with men or with boys, they see it as, as a pat on the back. Just like when we see all these teachers that hit the news that be messing with their students, these grown-ass women that have 5th grade, 6th graders, teaching 5th and 6th graders, and they come out that they've been messing with one of their students, and they really don't get any time for that. And they're not, they're not held to the same standard as men are when a man does it, and it's not as much outrage when men do it. When we hear it, people aren't as outraged, it is just as, it is just as sick, and it's just as detrimental to children, the ones that they're preying on. I mean, psychologically, it affects them, and it affects them socially and everything as they grow. Men too, boys too. So yeah, that's how I want to get this on some video. I just, no one said, there's going to just be a lot of butthurt people, but you can't, again, tell me without just saying, oh, because, well, we just need to stop sexualizing. That's because you sexualize women's boobs. Like, let's live in reality for a second. Tell me what benefit, how is it benefiting an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old to be suckling? Not breast milk. Suckling. And how does that play into, the talks of good touch, bad touch? Like how I would love for like someone whoever sees this, someone that works in CPS, whatever state, who has an answer. I mean, who can testify to what I'm saying, and also some of those people who work in those environments who may think it's okay, if there are any, that work in that environment, they still think that it is okay to do that. But if you are someone that works in CPS and think there's nothing wrong with a 7-year-old suckling, when it's fully capable of eating, it eats everything else and drinks everything else from, with their hands, I would like to know what your thoughts are, if you think it is okay. And also those people that work in CPS and those environments where, they can attest to The need for one to teach your children stranger danger and good touch, bad touch, and can attest to some of the cases that have come across their desk or they have heard of via coworkers or whatever, where there is issues where it's the mother or it's a female, it's the sister, it's the aunts, it's the preying on little kids, and how often they see those cases.